Do you feel like everyone you know takes better iPhone pictures than you do? I mean, you love taking pictures with your iPhone, but you're a little confused and overwhelmed about all the options and settings, and you really don't know the features and how to properly use them. My name is Dylan Stewart. They call me the MacWhisperer. And in this video, I'm going to teach you everything that I know about how to use the iPhone camera app. The iPhone is the most popular camera in the world. Every day, billions of pictures are taken with it. The only problem? Most of those pictures suck. And it's not really the photographer's fault. They just don't know how to properly use the app or what the tools are that are available. In today's video, I'm going to give you a walkthrough of some of the best features and some of the best tools. And if you stick around until the end of the episode, I'm going to show you the settings that I use on my phone that allow me to take great pictures like these. The first thing we've got to figure out is how we get to the camera app quickly. Sure, if you're already logged in, you can just open the camera app from here, or you can come into your control panel and you can open it up from right down here. But what if you're just taking your phone out of your pocket and it's still on the lock screen? Well, there's a couple of ways to open the camera app from there. In the bottom right corner, you're going to notice that little camera icon. If you press and hold on it, it's going to launch you right into the camera. But there's another way you can do it. Just swipe on this screen from the right edge to the left like this, and it'll open you right in. And that's really the fastest way to get into the camera app. In fact, if you ever have a stranger take your picture, you shouldn't be handing them your phone unlocked and open like this because they can get into everything. But if you hand it to them on the lock screen and you just swipe it like this, they're able to take that picture without creating any big security risks for you. And you can even enter the camera app by asking Siri to do it for you. You can either say, take a picture, which will point to the back camera like this, take a picture. Or you can ask her to take a selfie. Take a selfie. And that'll point to the front-facing camera. These are the easy ways to jump directly into the camera app. Now that we know how to get into the camera app, let's take a little look around. So there are several parts to the camera app. There's this bar across the top that's called the settings bar, and it shows you whatever settings are currently active on your phone. If you see the little arrow in the middle and you click on it, it shows the settings down below. From here, we're going to explore each of the settings for just a moment. If you look at the icons down below, you'll see some of them are yellow and some of them are white with a slash through them. The ones that are white with a slash through them, like the flash on this left side, is set on that because the flash is turned to off. When it's off, the icon shows white with a slash on it. When it's on, the icon shows as yellow. When it's on automatic, the icon shows as white with no slash on it. Automatic is great for beginning photographers because it allows the camera to choose when the flash or when the live photo should go on or off. I like to control it myself, and I tend to leave the flash on off. If you continue to the right of the flash, you're going to notice this little icon here. That's called night mode. And night mode is great because if you're in a dark environment, it will automatically light up the frame. The plus is it makes dark scenes lighter. The minus is, if anybody's moving around, it'll cause a blur and make for a really weird photo. I don't like it automatically doing this. In a lot of cases, I like the mood lighting of something being a little dark. So again, I'm going to leave that on the off setting, and if I need it, I'll turn it on manually. To the right of that, we've got live photos, and I love live photos. Live photos has been a lifesaver for me ever since they invented it. I used to take burst pictures, which is where you take a lot of pictures in a couple of seconds, and these are great for those jumping photos or things like that. But the problem with burst photos is they don't always capture what you need, and it's not always a convenient way to take a picture. But live photos are different because a live photo is technically like a 2-second video. And that allows you to pick any frame within that video after you've taken the shot to correct it. So anytime I've taken a group photo with a bunch of people, someone's always picking their nose and someone's eyes are closed and someone's got a weird look on their face. If you do the live photo, you can pick which frame of that picture is the best one at any later point. So unlike the other settings, I leave this one on all the time. It's easy to turn live photo off later or to edit it later, but you can't turn it on after the fact. So I like to leave it on. To the right of that, we've got photographic styles. Now these are styles that allow you to change the way the picture looks. And there's the standard or the cool, which is a little bit blue, the vibrant, the warm. And each of these change the style just a little bit so that your pictures can look a particular way. Over here, we've got the aspect ratio, and the aspect ratio is actually how wide and tall your pictures are. I like to set it on 16:9, which is a little bit more high definition and a larger view than the average picture, which is generally 4:3. But if you take a lot of pictures for Instagram and you want them to automatically be square, you can set it to square right here, and that will make sure you've got that nice square frame right off the bat. Again, for me, I just like to leave it on 16:9. To the right of that, you've got the exposure setting. This allows you to make a picture darker or lighter. Now there's a bunch of ways to control the exposure, and we'll talk about that more later, but sometimes you may want to knock this down a little bit so it's not such a bright picture in the bright sun, or bump it up a little bit in the dark so that you can see the details a little bit better. We're going to come one more over to this little clock icon. That's the timer. That allows you to set a 3 or a 10-second timer when you take a picture. This is great for taking selfies, and it's also great for taking group pictures, especially if you've got a tripod that you set up, because you can set up the tripod, click the button, and then get into frame before the picture gets taken. The flash will blink as it gets closer and closer to taking the picture, and then it will blink rapidly right before the picture is taken. This allows everybody in the picture to know exactly when that shot is about to happen. And it allows us to take great group pictures like these. The far right one over here, this is filters, and filters is very similar to photographic styles. It allows you to adjust the tone, making it lighter or darker or more blue or even black and white if you want. But remember, if it's on the left side, you're going to notice the little filter icon has the yellow rather than the white. That's telling you that it's engaged. And I can't tell you how many times I picked up someone's camera and realized that they've had a filter on maybe for months or years, and all of their pictures are blue or red and they didn't know why. So I tend to just leave it alone and fix it later. Whatever settings you turn on here, you'll notice are showing up above. So if we look up above, we can see flash is off, night mode is off, the exposure is set to 0, and we can also see on the far right side that live photos is on. Each of these settings is shown on that top bar so you don't have to check on them when you're taking pictures, because usually that arrow in the middle here is pointed up, which means that you don't actually see the settings. You see the different photographic styles or tools down at the bottom. So keep in mind, anytime you want to change those settings, it's just clicking that arrow, finding the setting you want to change, and making the change. And that's the settings bar at the top. Now down below here, we've got the separate styles of photographs you can take, and we're going to start all the way on the left here. Time-lapse photography is when you take a long recording and compress it into a very short amount of time. If you've ever seen a movie and you see clouds flying overhead really quickly and it turns from day to night, night to day in the matter of seconds, that's a time-lapse. To the right of the time-lapse, we've got the slow motion. And the slow motion is the opposite of time-lapse. It takes a short video and makes it long. And this can be great if you have somebody jumping into a pool and in slow motion the splashes in the water as they dip their head under. It's great for style. It's not something most people use that often, but it's still fun to do, and there are some great ways to do it. To the right of that, we've got what's called cinematic video. And cinematic video is a new style that was created for the iPhone 14 Pro and all of the phones that have come after that. What it does is it allows you to blur the background of your video like you can do in the portrait mode on photographs. This gives you a great style where you can adjust your focus and blur things out while you're taking a video. To the right of that is photo. We're going to come back to photo because we're going to spend a decent amount of time on that in this video, but I'm going to jump over to the portrait view. The portrait view does something that's called the bokeh effect. The bokeh effect blurs the background behind the subject. It's used for taking portraits of people or animals, and it does this great style where it allows you to focus on the person and the background items just kind of blur out, and it gives this really nice dimensional quality to it. When you're taking a portrait picture, you can adjust the light by sliding this light here to go from natural light over to studio light, over to contour, or stage light mono, which is black and white, or high key light mono, which is very black and white. They're nice styles. The important thing is you can change them at any point. So if you take a picture in natural light and at a later point decide you want to go to contour or studio light, just switch it later. In addition to that, you'll notice in the upper right-hand corner this little icon. That's the portrait icon that allows you to adjust how in focus or out of focus the background is. And again, you can change this at any point as long as it's a picture that you took. It's a really great style to be able to play with. And the last photographic style is panorama. Panorama is great for taking those landscape photos. You're at the Grand Canyon, you want to get the entire landscape in, or there's an amazing sunset, or you're at the beach. Any of those long stretched out photos, the panorama takes them and automatically makes them just look gorgeous. Fun little fact, if you have the Vision Pro, Apple's new VR headset, I have never seen anything look as good as the panoramic photos on that headset because they wrap around you and you feel like you're back in that moment. Check out this video up above for a little more information about the Apple Vision Pro headset. Now, let's put our attention on photos. The photo setting is the most common place you're going to be to take pictures, and there's a lot of cool things that you can do within the photos section. Now, the first thing you want to know is when you're pointing at someone, if you tap the screen like this, it will focus on whatever you tapped on. It will also give you this little sun icon to the right, which will allow you to change the exposure lower or higher. This can be really helpful when you're shooting something in bright light or in really dark light and allow you to adjust it on the fly. We talked about exposure in the settings section, but this allows you to just click and adjust the exposure wherever you are while you're taking a picture, and then afterwards it will reset to its normal exposure setting rather than leaving it on. When you're taking pictures and you're doing focus, if you press and hold like this for a couple of moments, you will get what's called the auto exposure autofocus lock, and you can see that there. That will lock it into whatever you set the focus on until you change it by tapping somewhere else. This can allow you to focus on a subject, adjust the exposure, and then move the camera around to find a perfect shot of that subject without continually adjusting the exposure. When I take pictures of fires at Burning Man, I use this tool all the time, and you can see how amazing the results are. The other thing that you can do is you can zoom in or zoom out. And you'll see down at the bottom, you've got several different options for zoom. You've got the 0.5, which pulls back and gives you a wide angle view. That allows you to get more people in a picture, or maybe a wider view of a building or a landscape or something like that. But be aware it does slightly stretch the picture, so people can look a little weird when you use that, or buildings can look a little awkward. It's still a good style, it's just not one I use all the time. To the right of that, we've got our standard 1 focus, which is the general default camera lens that most people use. And to the right of that, we've got the 2 and the 3. That zooms in by 2 times or 3 times. But there's a lot more that you can do with the zoom than just that. If you put your finger on any of these numbers and hold it down, you can slide up and down to really fine-tune any of these zoom focuses. The further out you go, the more pixelated it's going to become. So when people are taking pictures and I see them have a really high zoom on, I will always say, just take 2 steps closer to the image and you'll get a better picture. If you have a 15 times zoom on when you're taking a picture, that's going to be really blown out and pixelated and just not look very good. So I try to stick to the 1, 2, and 3 generally when I can, but of course sometimes you need to zoom. Just remember that every little bit you zoom further down this wheel will pixelate it and make it not quite as crisp of a picture. Now, there's a couple of other things you're going to notice. You're going to notice this grid that shows up on my screen. That's not a default setting, but having taken photo classes back in high school, I learned the rule of thirds. And this is a way to frame your subject so that it's more interesting. If something's just in the center, it feels a little boring. You want your eyes to be pulled in a certain direction. So you can use a wall or a person's face or some part of the landscape on one of these lines to create a more dynamic image and to give it just a little bit more style. You can turn on the grid option in settings, which we'll talk about in the bonus tip. You've also got this level. And the level is automatic on the new operating system. As you tilt your phone one way or the other, you're going to see this line in the middle that lets you know when your phone is actually straight versus a little off center. This can be really helpful for when you take pictures, so you don't have to fix them later if they're a little off kilter. And the last part of taking photos that we want to talk about here is the macro view. And the macro view is awesome. It's an automatic setting that when you get close to an image, it will zoom into a macro lens that will allow you to get amazing details as you zoom in. This is great for taking pictures of flowers or insects or just really cool objects. Now I want to talk about a couple of little tips about how to take better pictures in general. The first one is when you're holding your phone like this, you tend to have to click that little shutter button at the bottom in order to take the right picture. I see people do this all the time. When they take that, they don't really realize it, but they bump the camera and suddenly the camera moves and the picture isn't as good as they want it. You can actually use the side buttons to take the pictures. So if you're holding your camera like this, like you would a normal camera, and you press the volume up button here, it will take the picture easily, and it's a comfortable way to do it. You can also do that when you're holding it by positioning your finger right on that button so you can take an easier selfie or a picture of someone else without having to actually pay attention to the screen. The next tip to talk about with taking pictures is that if you press and hold on your shutter button here, like this, you'll actually create a video. And while you're creating that video, if you slide over to the right, like this, it will lock that video on. This is great when you're taking snapshots of something and you're like, oh, that's a great video moment. You don't have to wait and switch over to video. You can just press and hold and do it right there, just like that. And in that same conversation, if you like to take burst photos, and again, burst photos are similar to live photos, and if you want to do that, what you can do is you can press your shutter and immediately slide it to the left, and you will start taking burst photos for as long as you hold it down, allowing you to capture that perfect moment, whether it's a cat, someone jumping, or even a group photograph. So those are some of the easy ways you can take better pictures. Now in a moment, I'm going to give you my power tip about the settings that I use on my phone to give me better results. But before I do, if you learned something new in this video, take a moment and drop down below and give it a thumbs up so that other people can find it easily. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, this is a great time to do it. There's a ton of videos that are about to come out, but I can't deliver them to you if you aren't subscribed. And if you've got a question or an idea or a thought or something I didn't bring up, drop it in the comments section. I love to hear from you guys. And now, let's jump into the MacWhisperer power tips. Your camera has awesome default settings, but there's a lot of little features that you can tweak and improve by just taking a quick trip to the settings app yourself and changing a few things. So let's click on settings right here. And I'm going to scroll down till I get to the camera section, which is right down here. Go ahead and go into camera. Down where it shows formats, you can make an amazing change right here. Apple shoots photographs in a format called HEIC, which is a great, really powerful, efficient, small size format. But if you send those pictures to an Android user or a PC computer, they can't always open them and they can be a little blurry and just not great. So if you frequently communicate with Android users or with PC users, you may want to change this from high efficiency into most compatible. It will allow you to easily send out JPEGs instead of HEIC that you then have to export and change the format on. Now let's step into this preserve settings section because this is super helpful and super important. Your iPhone has default settings, and if you don't turn any of these things on in this section, it will automatically revert to the default settings every time. So if you turned on a specific style and you want to keep it, or if you want live photos to stay on, or if you want it to be in raw photos, you need to come in here and tell it to leave your settings alone. I recommend turning all these things on, but that's because the control freak that I am, I know what my settings are and I don't want the phone to overwrite them. The camera mode preserves whatever setting you were last on. So if you were last in video, it leaves you in video. If you were last in portrait, it leaves you in portrait rather than resetting to photo every single time. Some people may want to leave that off. Under creative controls, if you've adjusted the lightings or the exposure, it leaves that set. The depth control leaves your portrait and cinematic settings alone. The exposure adjustment means that if you've adjusted the exposure, it will reset it automatically. Now, that's not the worst thing to turn off because again, if you leave exposure on perpetually, you'll take pictures that are too dark or too light without you realizing it. Night mode is automatic by default. When it gets dark, night mode turns on. I already told you I don't really like night mode to be automatic, so I've got that turned on. And the same is true with the portrait zoom and the action mode. Now down with Pro RAW, I don't take a whole lot of Pro RAW photos, but when I do, I don't want it to stay on those settings because I just don't take enough Pro RAW. Pro RAW are extremely high quality photographs, but they take up a huge amount of space. And so for me, I only turn them on when it's an intentional choice and I don't want it to revert to that automatically. Down here is my favorite live photo setting, which I leave on so that it doesn't keep turning live photo off as a default, which is super annoying and super frustrating for me. And down here, you can change spatial video settings. What's spatial video, you say? Spatial video is the video format that the Vision Pro headset uses. And it's an unbelievably immersive, almost three-dimensional format that you don't want to have on all the time, especially if you don't have a Vision Pro. As more people get the Vision Pro, or as you get one, you may want to turn that on so that the settings are automatic the next time you take a video and it looks even better inside your headset. Let's step out of this setting here, and let's take a look at some of the other ones. Recording stereo sound, I think, is a given. Using volume up for burst. We talked about taking burst pictures. What this means is if you press and hold the volume up button on the side of your phone, it will also take a burst. And as I said, I've got a new kitty cat, and it's really hard to take pictures of him because he moves really quickly, so I turned that setting on. Most people should probably leave it off so you don't accidentally take bursts. Scanning QR codes should be on as a default. Show detected text allows you to take a picture of an image with text and then copy that text right off the phone and paste it into an app, so that's a good one. And then here's where you've got the grid and the level, both of which I recommend, and the mirror the front camera, which a lot of people like because in general, when you're taking a picture with the front-facing camera, it's flipped. So letters on shirts and things may be reversed. So this is one I recommend turning on. And the view outside the frame is a great setting. Essentially, we've got a photograph that we're taking, but sometimes you cut off somebody's head because you weren't paying attention. With this setting on, you have a couple of extra inches and you can usually adjust it to get the person's head in or to get the person better in frame. As we scroll down a little bit more, there's this option called Portraits in Photo Mode, and that's super helpful because portrait mode is a great tool, but you don't always remember to turn it on. So if you have portraits in photo mode turned on, if you take a standard picture, it automatically takes a portrait option that you can turn on later. And we'll talk about that in the video discussing how to edit your pictures better. Prioritize faster shooting is a good setting to leave on because it allows your camera to reset quickly to take the next picture. And the lens correction is a necessity. Sometimes there's a flare or a little distortion because of the camera lens. This can adjust that really well. And down below where it says macro controls, this is the setting we talked about a moment ago, where you turn on macro controls so that when you are close on an object, you have more control over how it looks and how you're focused in on it. And those are my tips for taking better pictures with the iPhone camera. I hope you got a lot of value out of what we talked about today, and I look forward to seeing you at the next video. My name's Dylan Stewart. They call me the MacWhisperer, and it's my passion and profession to help you get more done in less time with your Apple products than you ever thought possible. And I'll see you at the next video.